So I have changed my mind about how awards relevant Grand Theft Auto 6 is. I originally viewed GTA 6 primarily through the lens of its enormous commercial success and cultural impact, but going back through the awards history of the series changed that assessment. Since GTA 3, the series has repeatedly been recognized by major awards organizations. GTA 3 won the Golden Joystick and GDC awards. Vice City won the Golden Joystick and received nominations for BAFTA, DICE, and GDC. San Andreas won the Golden Joystick and was nominated at DICE, BAFTA, and GDC. GTA 4 won Game of the Year at both the Spike Awards and DICE. The Spike Awards were the precursor to the TGAs. And GTA 5 won the Golden Joystick and Spike Awards while receiving nominations for DICE, GDC, and BAFTA. The Golden Joystick record is particularly significant because it is determined by player voting, and GTA has won essentially every Golden Joystick for which it has been eligible except for GTA 4. That suggests something I had previously underestimated. GTA isn't merely a commercial phenomenon that everyone feels compelled to play. There's genuine sustained recognition for the series across both players and industry facing awards juries from a critical and creative standpoint. So I will admit, I have undersold the impact of GTA 6 as simply being commercial, simply being a trend, fad, something that people just like. I used to think of it as kind of the Levi's jeans of gaming, right? It's just something that people felt to go out and buy, whether they played it or not, right? It was just following the crowd. I will admit, going back and looking through the history of the awards, that I was incorrect in that assessment. That history makes the November 19th launch of GTA 6 particularly interesting because it lands essentially on top of the Game Awards eligibility window. The natural reaction has been to ask whether Jeff Keighley should move the cutoff so GTA 6 can be properly considered for the 2026 show. I don't think he will, and I don't think he should. The eligibility cutoff isn't simply an arbitrary line intended to prevent a game from being released too late for voters to play it. The Game Awards is an enormous live production that has to be planned, scripted, sequenced well in advance. Nominees have to be determined, awards presentations have to be arranged, developers and publishers have to be contacted, celebrities and presenters have to be scheduled and flown in, trailers and announcements have to be prepared, and the entire show has to be rehearsed and produced. The ceremony itself cannot simply move because one game arrives at the last possible moment. The 2026 Game Awards are currently scheduled for December 10th, leaving a fixed production window that has to accommodate all of those moving pieces. So in this discussion, right, there are things that can move and there are things that can't. The December 10th date can't move. That production crew has to put together an award show that airs on December 10th, come hell or high water, no matter what. So when you talk about moving the date, the people who are impacted by that are people that wind up getting crunched against an immovable target, right? So jurors get crunched, the production crew gets crunched, other games developers, all the people who are attending the ceremony get crunched. So this notion of should you move the date because GTA 6 is so big, the number of people who get negatively impacted by such a move is far greater than is simply compensated for by the recognition of GTA 6. More importantly, moving the cutoff for GTA 6 would create a precedent that the Game Awards would have to deal with every year thereafter. If the cutoff is moved because GTA is too important to exclude, what happens the next time another publisher releases a game just after the deadline that its fans consider equally important? Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that the fans are rational, right? That's the first thing. But if Keighley moves the date for GTA 6, every rabid fandom for any game that lands near that cutoff date and the date isn't moved is going to crash out, right? If a Kingdom Hearts game comes out, if a Final Fantasy game comes out, if a Bethesda game comes out, if a Forza game comes out, right? These entrenched, fiercely loyal communities are going to crash out and say, you moved it for GTA 6, this series is just as relevant or more relevant or whatever, right? Because again, in my assessment that GTA 6 wasn't as artistically as important as it is commercially, there will be other people who feel that way, and there will be other people who feel that their game is disenfranchised. But again, I go back to this date isn't there for, right, the date's not there. I mean, the date is there to give the maximum amount of time theoretically, right, for games to come out, but the hard stop on the date is because it provides the minimum amount of time or the reasonable amount of time for the production crew to put that show together and for all the logistics to be coordinated once all the nominees are known. The argument that nothing is bigger than GTA may be true commercially, but award systems cannot function by renegotiating their rules every time a particularly important game arrives late. And moving the cutoff would not simply create more work for the production team, it would also potentially squeeze other games out of nominations in categories where GTA 6 would occupy a slot, despite having had almost no time to be evaluated by the voting body. That is especially relevant this year because a large number of games have clustered into September and October after waiting for GTA 6's release date to be established. The jury already has an enormous amount of material to play before ballots are finalized. The Game Awards' voting process has historically required nominations to be determined before the ceremony, and games that fall outside the eligibility window are generally pushed into the following year's consideration, right? So, again, just to walk the timeline, right? GTA 6 comes out on November 19th. The cutoff date for the TGAs is typically the third Friday of November. This year, that falls on November 20th. So what you're saying is that, I mean, without moving the date, what you're saying is GTA 6 is going to come out on November 19th. There's no way in the world people are going to play it in 24 hours, right? Enough to reasonably, right, vote ethically to nominate it. The rumor right now is that Rockstar is not sending out review codes for this game. So people aren't, like, the reviewers are not getting access to this game early, right, on their own. The word right now is any pre-release play is going to be held at these boot camps at local Rockstar locations. So as far as I know, and I didn't pull the thread on all the Rockstar locations, but the major Rockstar locations that I know about are in the US and in the UK. So there are some people who are going to get to play the game there at those boot camps. But obviously, when you talk about those logistics, like everybody like there are 150 media outlets that vote in the TGAs. That includes outlets in the Middle East, right? And so people well outside the zone of it being logistically reasonable to get to these sites. So every media person, right, is not going to get access to this game before release. The vast majority at scale of people who will need to render a vote or submit a nomination for this game are not going to get access to this game until November 19th. So that at face value, like, makes it a pretty impossible situation, right, for GTA 6 to really be, you know, again, if people are, like, being ethical, to be in the conversation for the Game Awards. Again, without Keighley moving the date. And if Keighley moves the date, he impinges the amount of time that his production crew has to get the ceremony ready. So, but here's where GTA 6 really does become an exception. I think it has enough cultural weight to survive missing the 2026 award cycle in a way that most games simply cannot. Normally, a game that arrives in late November or December and misses the cutoff, and I would even say January of the following calendar year, is effectively forgotten by the following year's awards. Recency bias is real, and the next year's releases quickly establish a new conversation. GTA 6 is different. I don't think it needs to be nominated for Game of the Year in the 2026 Game Awards, and I don't even think it necessarily needs to appear at the ceremony at all. If the game is as significant as its predecessors have been, it will remain part of the awards conversation in 2027. I can see it receiving nominations for genre, technical, and artistic categories, even though I doubt it ultimately makes the Game of the Year in 2027, because 2027 is already shaping up to have a very strong collection of narrative-driven games competing for those top spots. GTA 6 has the aura necessary to break the normal late release forgetting cycle, but that doesn't mean the rules of the 2026 awards need to be rewritten for it. And that's really the point that gets lost when people argue that the Game Awards should simply move the cutoff. The Game Awards is important, but it is not the only major awards institution in gaming. And it isn't really the equivalent of the Oscars. Often, and I've been guilty of it too. To talk about the TGAs as the Oscars of gaming, which I stopped doing several years ago because I realized I was wrong. The broader awards pantheon includes the Golden Joysticks, the GDC Awards, BAFTA, DICE, and the Game Awards. I feel like I'm missing one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's all 5. With each serving a somewhat different audience and purpose. The Game Awards has an especially powerful commercial role because it combines awards with major announcements, trailers, and a massive audience arriving at the end of the year. It celebrates the work developers have done throughout the year while also helping establish the next year's gaming conversation. GTA 6 doesn't need that marketing assistance. Everyone already knows it exists. The games that benefit most from the exposure are the other games competing for attention, the ones that deserve their moment to be discovered and celebrated. Moving the cutoff to squeeze GTA 6 into the 2026 show would therefore solve a problem that GTA 6 doesn't actually have, while creating problems for the production team, the voting jury, and other games. GTA 6 may be big enough to transcend the normal awards calendar, but I don't think it's big enough to justify breaking it.